Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishvotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschaarteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye Muhyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sadani Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Keita Votra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudhyate Trakritibihi Shushrushubistatkshanat. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. I welcome all of our young adults and evolving adults who are joining us for our special class. I welcome all of our adults who are communing through Zoom, through YouTube. A joyous Bhakti Anudina to all. Joyous because that's the best greeting. We should almost say this word before we use any other word. Bhakti means to depend on the higher. The more we depend, the less selfish we are. Anudina, this is not a day. This is not an event. This is every day. This is a form of development. A sadhu is one, when you have a relationship with her or with him, your desires are reduced. When you interact with a sadhu, your desires reduce. I want to read to you a birthday wish that a seeker, one of you, had shared with me recently. P.S. As far as anything I'd want for my birthday, I would appreciate it if you spoke to Bhagavan Krishna about giving direct experience of his nature, complete knowledge of himself, like he did for the Gopas and Gopis. Did you have the same prayer on your birthday? But that's what our prayer should be on our birthdays, etc. We are in the 6th class of this semester, the 20th class of this year, the 94th class of this course. I hope you're beginning to appreciate that a sadhu is not an individuality with a specific name and form. A sadhu is a community. Our community, where we're shifting our desires for myself, to desiring the divine. This is the vision, the fabric of Vedanta in Bhagavata. We are immersed in the rasa pancha adhyayihi, the 5 chapters on enlightenment. Chapter 29, the focus is Pranaya. Pranaya in English means supplication. The gopis share with Bhagavan Krishna how much they depend on him using their words. In chapter 30, Araditaha, we come to meet Devi Radha. And here, the gopis share with Bhagavan Krishna how much they depend on him, not with just words, but their actions. In chapter 31, the Gopi Gita, the gopis share with Bhagavan Krishna how much they depend on him, not just with words and actions, but their entire lives depend on him. And so the Gopi Gita is really a chapter on mumukshutvam. We treat this too casually. We focus on the poetry too much. The Vedanta is a focus on the last quality that a seeker needs, the intensity to be with their original parent, to be independently joyous. A gopi is one who P means inputs, introspects with their go, that is their senses, all of their equipment. For those in our retreat, I've been sharing how dhyana or contemplation should be perpetual and personal. That's verses 7 and 8. These gopis are contemplating on their own nature perpetually and personally. One has to feel that they are a full-time seeker to be a gopi. You have to feel that. For all of the parents who are joining us, legally, you may be a parent, but you know when you're being a passive parent and you're being an active parent, correct? Feeling like you're a full-time parent cannot be measured externally. So for all of us who are engaged in their relationships and their professions, you can still be a full-time seeker if you feel it. Those who have no relationships, have no professions, you can still not be a full-time seeker if you don't feel it. Bhagavan Krishna, in the Gopi Gita, is testing the gopis. He as if disappears from them to test them. Really, that is a blessing for them to intensify their longing for him. I've shared this with all of you. Training happens in a controlled environment. Testing happens in an uncontrolled environment. That testing is a blessing to see how aligned you are with the truth. And these gopis are. We'll read the end of Gopi Gita and then continue. Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samhitayam Dashamaskande Purvardhe Rasa Kridayam Gopi Gitam Nama Ekatrimshodhyayaha. And we continue with these 5 chapters. We continue to chapter 32. This is a deep chapter. We have to experience this depth before we begin our Rasa Leela. Of course, I'm in the 10th skanda, the 10th section, the 32nd adhyaya, chapter 32, the 19th shloka, verse 19. Bhajatopi na ve kechid. Bhajantya bhajata kutaha. Atma ramo hyapta kama. Akritagnya guru druhaha. Here, Bhagavan Krishna is speaking. So much of what we're experiencing is Rishi Shuka speaking. Here, Bhagavan Krishna is speaking to the gopis. They had asked him a question about love, and he responds by creating a framework of love. And this is very deep, so I'm going to share more of this after we get to the buildup, after we go through this buildup. The gopis are on the banks of the Yamuna. They're practically dead, physically, mentally. And then who reappears? Bhagavan Krishna. And when he reappears, they all start to rise. Their eyes dilate, and they rush to be with him. There's so much detail that's given to the extent of Bhagavan Krishna is chewing on a betel nut. Pan. He's having a great time. And those gopis are so close that a little bit comes out. You know, like you see those Thakurs in Bollywood movies, and as they're speaking, that's coming out. And they're catching that and keeping it close to their hearts. And some more details. Please tune into the depth. One of the gopis sucked Bhagavan Krishna into her eyes and went into ecstasy, like a yogi. Another gopi, whose heart was aching, felt Bhagavan Krishna in her, and she became thoughtless. Not careless, but thoughtless, like what the Veda teaches. Another gopi, and this is actually all of the gopis, they took their clothes and threw them in a pile on the banks of the Yamuna to create a throne for Bhagavan Krishna to sit in, because they felt him in their hearts, and they didn't want any clothing to be between him and their heart. Like we learn that your dearest relationship is you, they felt that. They are reveling in Bhagavan Krishna. And they're partially, marginally confused, angry. And this is why they ask him, you say that you love us, but do you love us? Because if you loved us, why did you leave? So now Bhagavan Krishna gives this deep framework. I will try to move slowly. You try to write this down. Bhagavan begins saying, one type of lover is one who loves for getting love in return. Okay? Such a personality is selfish. They love for reciprocity. They're selfish. Number two, one who loves without any transaction of receiving love back. No game of reciprocity. Such a personality is selfless, and Bhagavan even uses the description, is parental. Is parental. Parents, do you have this love? We used to, but then our kids grew up. Then, the third category, the one who doesn't love. Doesn't love for return or no return, simply does not love. And he describes such people in four categories, okay? So 3 categories of love. Now he's opening up the 3rd category. In the 3rd, why don't they love? One type of person is Atma Rama. Atma Rama means they are living in Advaita, in oneness, so there isn't anyone to love. Clear? You're all thinking, yeah, that's us. I don't love anyone either. The 2nd is known as Apta Kama. Apta Kama means one who, though living in Dvaita, has the vision of Advaita. Though living in duality, has this vision of oneness. So for them, there also isn't anyone to love. The 3rd, Akritagnya. Akritagnya means one who, though in Dvaita, is completely unaware, they don't know. So for them, there's no one to love either. Okay? Akritagnya means they're in Dvaita, but they're content, they're enlightened. So they're reveling in their own selves. There is no one to love. These 3 you can categorize as really just one. They are tuned into oneness. So there is no other to love. And the 4th is known as a Guru Druha. A Guru Druha is one who is vicious. They are papis, and they're ones who are not capable of loving. Okay? Everyone follow that framework. Now, why Bhagavan Krishna is sharing this? He says, I am none of these. Build up, not applicable. And you know why? He says, I am love. In these earlier categories, there's an expression of love. Bhagavan says, I am love. And that was the answer that the gopis needed of why did you leave? And his answer is, I am love. I love you, which is why I created this as if separation to intensify your love for me so that you too become love. And now I'll read the end of this chapter in English because it's so passionate. This is all verse 22 in chapter 32. Even by service for countless divine years, I cannot pay back to you anything equal to your glorious act of self-surrender. Prompted by love untarnished by any blemish of selfishness, and breaking the ever-powerful chain of attachment for home and worldly concerns. As I cannot pay back the debt, may your generous act be its own reward. The subtlety of this is, I'm not giving you love back. I want you to be love. And that's what bhakti is, no? The 5th Purushartha, the 5th purpose in life, the highest reason to live is not enlightenment, but it is devotion. It is depending. It is bhakti anudina. And now, the completion of the chapters on enlightenment, the Rasa Leela. If you want to dance, you can dance. If you want to sing, you can sing. If you want to cry, you can cry. You just be love As I narrate to you the katha, and if I feel like it, I'll share the Vedanta, but I just feel like sharing the katha right now. So I'm going to begin. The 10th skanda, the 33rd adhyaya, the 3rd shloka. 10, 33, 3. This is Rishi Shuka explaining to Raja Parikshita. What does he share? Rasotsava sampravritto Gopi mandala manditaha Yogeshwarena Krishnena Tasam madhye dvayor Pravishtena grahitanam Kante swanikatam striyaha. And then the Rasa Utsava. Utsava means festival, can mean dance. Here in English, it's called carnival. Sampravritto, it began. Gopi mandala manditam, and all of the gopis arranged themselves holding hands. Yogeshwara Krishna. Tasam madhye dvayoho, and in between each gopi was the master of yoga, the Krishna. Pravishtena grihitanam, and as this began, he was holding the gopis, kante swaniketam striyaha, and bringing them close, holding them by their necks in a loving way, not in a mean way. Then what happened? They danced. As Bhagwan was between them holding their necks, some of the poetry is, it looked like an emerald between two gold beads. Bhagwan being the jewel and the gopis being the gold. The gopis were dancing vigorously. They were singing vigorously, and it looked like a dark cloud between lightning. Those gopis were shining, and then Bhagwan Krishna's in the middle. And every gopi was looking at Bhagwan Krishna, trying to make him more joyous. What a concept, that he is joy, but there's so much love and oneness that they want him to be more joyous. Whatever they can do to make that happen. Some special portions of this. Gopyo labdva achyuta kanta. They had all earned Bhagwan Krishna as their husband. If you remember how these chapters began, they had engaged in a vrata. They were engaged in discipline, sacrifice for Bhagwan Krishna to become their husband. And see the phala of this, the reward, the result, that this is possible. We're believers, but we don't have faith. This Rasa Leela should instill faith in us that these little girls who are engaged in this vrata, this was possible for them. It is most definitely possible for us to have Bhagwan be our spouse, for Bhagwan to be us. There were so many flowers in these gopis' hairs, and they were dancing so hard that the flowers kept on falling, and the bees kept on coming closer and closer to those flowers, and there were so many bees then that that became the music that they were dancing to. And the accompaniment to the music was all of their jewelry, their necklaces, their bangles, their anklets. Everything sounded perfect. I remember Swami Tejomayananda sharing when the gopis were crying for Bhagavan Krishna, even that was melodious. Not jarring like when we complain and criticize and cry. Even hearing them cry was you wanting to be with them. Bhagavan Krishna was loving every one of these gopis like a child playing with itself, looking in a mirror. Like our younger son Shuka, when he was younger, we put a mirror beside his bed. And as he would go to sleep, he would just play with that entity in the mirror, touching it, smiling at it. Now he's jaded and he's removed that, we've removed that mirror, etc. But that's how Bhagavan was with these gopis. He was just playing with himself. The moon, who was illuminating this Rasa Leela, was amazed at what it was seeing, so it became still. And so the whole night went on and on and on. Another special message. Shantame Nangam Panina. And these gopis were sweating so much. It's India, remember. They were sweating so much that Bhagavan Krishna was wiping their sweat with his own hands so it wouldn't get into their eyes and sting their eyes. And he felt how much they loved him, so he guided all of them to go into the river. And they all started playing in the river, just splashing each other. Again, childlike. The English is so strange. They were all shooting water jets at each other. They were being. I don't know how else to describe all of this. Now, Rishi Shuka is explaining this to Raja Parikshita. And Raja Parikshita asks, how is all of this allowed? These gopis who have their own relationships, have their own responsibilities, and they're in the middle of the night, in the middle of the jungle, with one entity. How? And he uses terms like, this is anti-Krishna. This is behavior of the worst kind. And now Rishi Shuka shares here, Bhagavan Krishna is like fire. Fire purifies all that goes into that fire without losing its purity. Rishi Shuka explains to Raja Parikshita that Bhagavan Krishna is supra-moral. I'd shared this term with you some weeks back. Morality doesn't apply to him. And it's almost like he's being sarcastic with Raja Parikshita. He says, if you don't believe me, then instead of imitating Bhagavan Krishna, first imitate Bhagavan Shiva. When he drinks up that Kala Kuta, that poison, you try that first. And then you can start imitating how Bhagavan Krishna is. He explains that Bhagavan Krishna is being, he's not doing. Only if you're doing can there be sinning, but if you're not doing, there can't be sinning. He is being with himself. He shares, the spirit of the gopis, the spirit of the gopis' husbands, the spirit of all beings is Bhagavan Krishna. So how can this be wrong? He is them. Ananya, there is no other. You can only harm another. You can't harm yourself independently. And I'll read to you the completion of the Rasa Leela in English, because it's so passionate again. Whoever hears or recites again and again the account of Krishna's amorous dalliances with the gopis with deep faith in the divinity of Krishna, the faith that he is Mahavishnu, the supreme being. And for all of the students who have been with me since the first class, we went through how Bhagwan Narayana or Bhagwan Vishnu is the original and all else are expressions of him. So that's why this point is being made. That Bhagwan Krishna is Bhagwan Narayana. Attains to the highest devotion to the Lord, and in the course of the development of devotion, he quickly overcomes lust, the universal heart disease of humankind. And though this is not stated in the Samapta, the conclusion of Gopi Gita, what many teachers have shared, what the Rasa Leela is the Kama Vijaya Leela. It is the expression of being victorious over not just lust, but desire. Desire only comes to those who are incomplete. If one has become victorious over incompleteness, that means they are enlightened. That means they are Bhagwan. And so the Rasa Leela is very, very, very different than how we interpret this and practice this today as being something that's entertaining or even cultural, when this is the highest teachings, the highest experience. And there's much, 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 much more. And so like the moon kept that night going, I'm going to have to take one more class to complete these 5 chapters.